Hi, this is Eddy, and as you can see from the background, today I'm not sharing anything to do with number. So I have been getting a lot of questions. Is it worth buying a second residential property in Singapore with the additional buyer stamp duty of 12%? So of course, there will always be alternative investment. So say for example, overseas real estate. So one that is closest to us, which is the Malaysia property. However, there are many concerns about buying Malaysia property, and I have already consolidated top 5 reasons why Singaporeans do not buy Malaysia property. So number 1, the security risk of the country. They are afraid that the developer may go bust. Number 3, after buying the property, how to rent. Number 4, after buying the property, how to sell. And last but not least, they are unsure about the regulation. So these are all the concerns, including myself, that I do not own any Malaysia property. So today, I have an expert. His name is Sean Tan, who is from Malaysia, KL. He will be addressing this concern to you. Sean Tan is a real estate agent and also a developer himself. So today, he will be sharing these 5 points with you. Over to you, Sean.
Thanks, Eddy. Thanks for having me here. And what's up, guys? This is Sean Tan, and I'm just a person who is super passionate about properties in Malaysia, and I've shared a lot of content online. And Eddy also told me the 5 main concerns for Singaporeans to actually invest in Malaysian property. Because I used to work in JB as well, the Sunway Iskandar, which is in the Merdini area, right next to Tuas. So I'm very familiar because most of the buyers back then are also Singaporeans. So let's go to topic number 1. Security risk. Yes, I do agree, and we all, like the common property buyers in Malaysia, is also very particular about this. And this commonly applies to individual landed properties. So now in Malaysia, there's individual titled landed properties and there's strata titled landed properties. So strata titled landed properties is also known as gated and guarded, where you need to pay a certain amount of maintenance to actually have security facilities, barricades and CCTVs and things like that. So these introduced back 4 to 5 years ago, and these took off like nobody's business, right? This kind of, because on public roads, those illegal barricades that those housing communities have done, right, it's not very effective eventually, because the road actually belongs to the government. So you still have utilities such as the garbage man, the garbage collector, garbage man. Then you have the post people, then you have newspaper people, then you have maintenance people coming in the road, in and out. And you have no right to actually stop public from coming into your community. Whereas strata landed properties you have, but then the maintenance of the roads and things like that falls back to your management body, which actually is included in your maintenance fees. So as an advice, if you guys are really serious into investing, right, you guys can actually go check out like strata titled landed properties. Concern number 2, which is developer may go bankrupt. Again, this is like 10 years ago story, where you have certain buildings being abandoned and things like that. However, there's this act that it was introduced by the government, which is called Housing Development Act. Legally, house buyers are actually protected, where like developers, when they sell houses, the sales and purchase agreement is actually standardized, where you cannot actually change anything, and it's a full template copied from the government, so that you have no worries at all. And recently, the prerequisite to actually be a developer has already increased and increased and increased and increased, until I foresee in the future we will actually run out of developers, because it's extremely difficult to actually start a development business now. So for example, like once I sell you a house, I'm a developer, I sell you a house, then when I finish the foundation, when I complete the foundation, I will actually demand for billings from your financial institution, which is your bank, right? But in a normal circumstance, banks will actually straight away DT the money to me. But in this scenario, whatever fund needs to go through an account set up by our government before actually going into the developer's account. So if the developer cannot fulfill the criteria, the checklist set by the government, they will be blacklisted, and there's a list where you can actually check out blacklisted property developers. So therefore, my advice for foreign investors is this: don't go for smaller, like we always say, pang lang zhang don't exist. Like you want cheap, you want good stuff, and you want awesome stuff. It doesn't exist. Like sure got something here and there. Like if you go for public listed companies like Sunway, SV Setia, EcoWorld, Gamuda, all this, as long as it's public listed, it should not be any problem actually. In fact, not only like the abandoned properties has decreased almost to zero already, the government is even initiated a lot of movements and incentives to actually incentivize or motivate contractors to actually take up abandoned buildings and build up. There has a lot of stories like that, such as the building opposite KL Gateway, which is called Plaza Pantai. In Subang, there's one that is called the USJ 19 Digital Mall, and in Klang, the one next to ICT, which is abandoned, which is past the Asian economic crisis back then. So now it became an eyesore, and the government actually took initiative to improve that. So for point 3 and 4 is actually the same thing, which is unsure how to rent or how to sell as a foreigner. So I do understand, like, it depends whether you buy secondary properties or you buy new properties. So if new properties, you come here, you book your unit, you sign your agreement, 3 years later only you will come back and collect your unit. And now there's a lot of companies being set up to actually service these kind of foreign clients, where you can actually just write an authorized letter authorizing these bunch of service providers. They will accept the keys for you, they will actually do defect checks for you, they will actually furnish up the unit for you, they will actually also find tenants for you, and if there's any maintenance requirement, they will actually do this for you. In fact, I'm actually working in one of them right now. So all these are actually being provided online, and now with internet, even call doesn't cost any money. However, all these comes with project management fees and these kind of things, but it has never been easier. So in Malaysia right now, even renting need not to go through agent anymore. We have like platforms such as like the usual property platforms like iProperty, Property Guru, Prop Social, and things like that. We have new products in the market such as speed rent and things like that. So those actually allows owners to directly rent out the unit. So there's a lot of changes in that space. And to answer that question accurately, there are a lot of companies providing such services for foreign buyers actually. So have no worries, just find them online. All of them are there. If you really need any recommendation, you tell Eddy. Eddy will actually forward to me and I will suggest them. Last but not least, unsure about the regulations. So this is a tricky one because in Malaysia we have the federal state government and the local state government. So in our Land Act, which is our land law, all land matters are state matters, which is this one, right? Sultans, our local sultans like Selangor Sultan or Johor Sultan, all will actually dictate the land law of their particular state. So this gives developers like us back then truly a lot of nightmares. Like, so certain guidelines and certain rules are deployed in KL, for example, but not deployed in Johor Bahru. For example, like Bumi discount is different from Johor and Selangor. And then in federal, which is KL, you don't need to actually provide landscape requirements or things like that. So there's a lot of different rules and regulations. However, it only applies to development. So what you guys really need to take note of is only the foreign cap, which is actually changing every now and then. A very good scenario would be Selangor and KL. In Selangor, the foreign cap is actually 3 million, meaning anything above 3 million only a foreigner can buy. However, in Kuala Lumpur itself, 1 million is sufficient, meaning anything above 1 million a foreigner can own. Geographically speaking, KL and Selangor KL is in Selangor itself, so there's not much difference. That's why the person who's engaging you guys, right, that's the only thing that you really need to know. And another thing would be RBGT, Real Property Gain Tax, which we actually revised last year. So we realized that the government realized that there's a lot of influx of foreign funds into the market, especially in the property market. That's why the entire KLCC is like very, very international already, to be based on my experience. So almost like 60% of the block is actually foreign owned. So in conclusion to question number 5 is that things you really need to know is the foreign cap, the RBGT, which is the real property gain tax. Then you have the loan application. The loan application process and the margin would be different. So the right consultants, or you can write to Eddy, Eddy can write to me again, then we can speak about this in more detail. Because let's say you're a foreigner, there's only a certain maybe 50% or 40% margin that you can actually take up for financing. But if you actually register a company here, then you can actually recognize the company and you can get like 75% upfront. So there's also services, there are also companies providing such services like this to foreign buyers to actually facilitate the entire buying process. That's how now Malaysia is actually flooded with a lot of foreign investments. I think those are the fears and concerns that you guys actually face. However, I felt that these topics, right, should be like 5 years ago punya topic. I think those concerns are no longer valid. In fact, Malaysia has one of the most sophisticated land ownership schemes in the world because we are part of the Commonwealth, and that actually gives us a lot of enforcement and benefit in terms of home ownership. So we as a homeowner in Malaysia we are very, very protected. Don't say shop lots or factories, like those commercial ones, you are on your own, because the government felt that if you can actually manage to invest in commercial properties, you are already sophisticated and wise enough. However, if you're buying a house in Malaysia, you are exclusively protected. That's why in the future, if you don't invest now, sooner or later, property developers will be a very, very rare creature in the future. I think that's all for this episode. Back to you, Eddy.
Thank you, Sean, for addressing the top 5 concerns why Singaporeans do not buy Malaysia property. My name is Eddy. I hope you learned something today. Until next time, I see you in my next video.